Yeah. Um, I'm very sorry I'm late, and I hope we are all on. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can.
Yeah, thank you very much. You're most welcome to our webinar. I've been informed that we have to give it like 2 minutes for us to start. Yeah, I think we can now start because our 2 minutes and I hope I'm very audible to everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay.
I think we can now
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning to everyone on the group.
And I hope very audible to everyone. Am I audible? Yes, you're audible. Okay.
Can we first mute because it's like I'm hearing some echoes if someone gets on. So yeah. Um I want to thank all of you for coming for the webinar. And we all know that we are coming for a forensic in practice webinar. And we have our participants that are ready to take us on for the webinar. I really want to thank all of you for coming on to listen to us and learn much about forensic psychology. Before we start, this webinar is being hosted by Dalami Forensik, and it's headed by Madame Ruth Amiwita. I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name very well because I commonly commonly call her Ruth. So I want to call her upon as our president to give us her opening remarks before our participants take on their platforms. Thank you very much. Madam Ruth?
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, moderator. Am I audible? Okay. So, hello everyone.
Yes.
Thank you all for being here today. I'm Ruth Floren Bruto, yes, the president of Dalami Forensik in the Global. And I'm excited to welcome you to this webinar on forensic psychology. So before we begin, I like to take a moment to introduce Dalami Forensik to everyone. We are an Indonesian-based organization focused on non-formal education in forensic field. Our mission is to develop and share forensic knowledge through courses, webinars, seminars, and training. We are committed to contributing to law enforcement and justice while keeping pace with technological advancements. So it's our goal to create a global network for knowledge exchange, and we aim to open our first forensic laboratory in 2029. This webinar is part of the journey, and I am grateful you are all here to be part of it. So yes, I also want to take a moment to thank our incredible speakers, Mr. Rahul joining us from the UK. He is a student from Manchester Metropolitan University for his double graduate in forensic psychology. And I'm grateful to have you here to share your experience. A heartfelt thank you also to Ms. Prashansa, a forensic psychologist from India. Your time and expertise mean a lot to us, and it's an honor to have both of you here today. So I also encourage everyone here to actively participate, ask questions, join the discussion, and make decisions as interactive as possible. The more engaged we are, the more valuable and memorable this webinar will be. Thank you again for being here. So let's dive in and make today an exciting learning experience to everyone. Thank you, moderator. You can take over.
Ms. Ruth?
Yes, I'm done. Oh, I think she's out of the network. Perhaps they will join us soon.
I think we might have a network issue from her side.
So let's wait for a moment.
I'm sorry, I'm back on. Sorry, my network had gone off a little bit, so I'm back on. Yeah, thank you very much, Ma'am Ruth, for introducing us, Dalami Forensik to the audience. So we are going to welcome our first speaker, Mr. Rahul Gupta, already introduced to us by the president as a student in the United Kingdom. under previous students at National Forensic Science University, doing where he did his master's in science in forensic psychology, and still pursued the same degree here at I guess the University of Manchester, if I'm not mistaken. And I would. Oh, we can't hear you, Mr. Rahul. You're not audible. Actually, we can't hear you. I don't know if I'm the one having an issue, but we can't hear you.
Yes, he is not audible.
I think you can disconnect and connect again so that we can be able to hear you.
Hear me now?
Yeah, yes. You're now
Yeah.
audible.
Yeah, so I was just correcting you that it is Manchester Metropolitan University, not the University of
Okay,
Manchester.
sorry. Thank you very much. Thank you for the correction. Still, you can stay unmute because I welcome you to have your give us your experience, what you know about forensic psychology, and your journey in the forensic psychology field. So we welcome you, Mr. Rahul Gam Gautami.
So thank you so much, the organization Dalami Forensik and Roots, and Prim, my ex-fellow classmates, and thank you for finding me deserving enough as a speaker to your webinar. So now I'm gonna start my presentation, and let me just share my screen. Just a second. Can you see my screen? Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So my name is Rahul Gautami, and as they introduced, I'm doing my another degree in UK after pursuing the previous masters in India, and I'm gonna present about how those two degrees are different being the same course. So let's get into it. So this presentation is divided in basically three subsections, three parts. So the first part would be the overview of forensic psychology in UK. The second part of pros and cons of forensic psychology degree in UK compared to India. And the third part is my personal experience of UK being a student. So before starting this further slides, just I want to tell everyone, if you have any questions, just stop me and ask me if you don't understand anything in the slides or you have questions spontaneous on a way to presentation. Feel free to ask anytime. So forensic psychology in UK is much or little bit different than other countries, as it is involves the application of psychological principles and practice, but they don't rely on instruments like polygraph, lie detection, BIOS, and narcoanalysis, as they don't find it 100% reliable, the government of UK. So it is more of based on legal and criminal justice system and applying psychological principles to the cases and offenders and victims and witnesses. So forensic psychology in UK is crucial role in bridging gap between psychology and law. It is more focused on psychology and law rather than generating the instrumental based reports using the techniques which is used in India and in USA. So UK it is kind of more research based and evidence based rather than just relying on instruments and then just question about the reliability of the reports of polygraph, as it is not a subjective evaluation but it is objective in a way, as it is measuring the physiological responses of your body. But here it is more focused on literature, psychological researches, and how you can link those researches and theoretical frameworks to the crime and law. Then how you can become forensic psychologist in UK. So what education and training you need to be a forensic psychologist in UK. So as a part of qualification, you need to choose a course which is BPS accredited. So now the BPS is British Psychological Society, which is which provides accredited courses in the different universities. So if you are planning to come UK for forensic psychology degree, then you should look out for the course with BPS accreditation of the university. So you might that might help you in getting job in the future as you have done the accredited course in the UK. And there are two stages of forensic psychologist in UK. So the first stage is doing the masters, which is BPS accredited. So after doing a post graduation in forensic psychology in UK, you will be titled as trainee forensic psychologist, which is stage one of becoming the chartered forensic psychologist. And chartered forensic psychologist is a stage two forensic psychologist who are experts and have done PhD in the field of forensic psychology and who is working with prison or community setting, and then they can register themselves with the HCPC, which is the another council for health and care professionals. So these both governing body gives you opportunity to work at the forensic psychiatric hospitals and prison as well as the community setting. So it's a long route to be a forensic psychologist in UK. It's not like 1, 2, or 3 year journey to be a proper forensic psychologist. So these are the key training and educational bodies in the UK which you need to be a member of. Register yourself with BPS, register yourself with HCPC, get training and adhere to the codes and ethics of this governing body as a professional. So what are the roles and responsibility of forensic psychologist in UK? So typically in UK, these are the three domains where forensic psychologists work. The first domain is assessment, where forensic psychologists assess individuals who in legal cases, including offenders, victim, as I said earlier, and provide insight into the mental health and risk factors and behaviors of those cases. So, for example, if you are having some issues in some community setting, who is providing mental health support to the probation people on probation, those who have been in prison, and those who are trying to reintegrate themselves in the community and struggling to get license back, struggling to get bank account back after serving the sentence. So they support them in those in reintegration with the society. And when it comes to the court reports and releasing them from prison, so you also provide a risk assessment report where you use different tools for the risk assessment, who is specifically designed for certain kind of offenders, For example, some tool of risk assessment is designed for sexual offenders, other tools are designed for severe homicidal crimes and murderers. So there are different tools which you will be taught in the university to apply in the case and evaluate the risk and risk factors for the case and how likely the person is to reoffend, which we call it the recidivism rates of the criminals. And as a part of intervention, we need to focus on how we can also mold those behaviors in good or ethical behaviors, which is not criminal in nature, how to rehabilitate those people and how to support them to reduce the crime rather than just sentencing and punishing them for their crimes. We should focus on the etiology of those behaviors, because if you can't understand why certain behaviors in happening in certain type of people that leads to crime, you cannot solve or rehabilitate that person without understanding what the basic or causal problem of those behaviors are. So you need to clear with all the psychological concepts which you some guys have been studying in basic psychology course, like memory, personality, and how those encoding memory and retrieval affects your witness memory when it comes to the witness statement. Those things are much more useful in UK, and they work on court reports for the reliability of witness statement, whether the statement of witness is reliable enough to consider if the statement is true or accurate to the point. Those kind of things, how where the witness were, what was the lighting condition, what was the environment, what mood the witness was when he was witnessing the crime, where the event is happening. All those things are considered when it comes to the reliability of the witness to make more clear, the recall of whatever event the witness has witnessed. And also, forensic psychology works as a consultant to community setting organization or mental health organization, or in court they can be as an expert witness, as an expert testimony of the forensic psychologist, that how this particular case is need to be addressed, how we can solve the current issues in the focus. All these things are backed by the research and evidence and point you make in the report. So whatever you are trying to claim in the report, whatever you are making point, it is it has to be backed by psychological literature which is already researched in the world, and how you can link it to the current issues. So each and every line of your report would be questioned in the court. So it is more of court jobs and court reports, consultancy reports, risk assessment reports. Those are all psychological expertise and expert opinion kind of field of work in the UK if you want to be forensic psychologist. So here we have no laboratories for polygraph, we have no laboratories for DOX, SDS, because they don't find it reliable enough to use it in a court. But in India, they use it as a secondary evidence in court, which supports the claim of the defendant or the victim. The next, we are talking about areas of specialization. What areas we will work in UK as a forensic psychologist. So first is criminal behavior, understanding the theoretical concepts, understanding the theories of crime. So if we are looking for forensic psychology courses, we will also go through the criminology as a subject and to understand how the theories of crime works, how certain people become criminal, and how the basic explanation of crime, why we become criminals, why certain people behave in a certain way. That's what we are looking for. And also we are looking at victimology, that how it is impacting the victims of the crime, because being a victim is really traumatic in nature. You are going through some crime that impacted your mind, that impacted your brain, that impacted your memory, that impacted your day-to-day routine and function for your life. It's shocking, it's harmful, it's painful, it's suffering. So you need to also understand the perspective of victim side, that what impact it has made the crime on victim and how he is coping with it. And the third specialization, as I mentioned earlier, which is risk assessment. So evaluating the risk of reoffending and developing management plans. So once crime has happened, you can't stop them from acting the crime. It has already happened. Now what the task is, we need to look at the case and understand the person's history. For example, we need to understand the childhood, what relationship he or she has with their family, with their parents, with their sibling, with their friends, how he is coping with stressful situation, what is his or her relationship history, what is the substance abuse history of the certain person. All of this information help you formulate the case, and then according to the case, you decide as a professional forensic psychologist that is this person a low risk to the society? Is this person a high risk to the society? Is this person a medium risk? So as a professional, as a forensic psychologist, you will determine the risk of reoffending and recidivism rates in as a part of forensic psychologist career. This is what your expertise is. This is what you will study and will be expert of. So these three sectors are really much getting applied in UK as a forensic psychologist. So here again it is different than India or USA, where they use some instrumental techniques to support their claims or point in the court. So now research and development. So especially UK is more suitable for research and development, as here you will find many professors and scholars who is focusing on research and development rather than applicability side of the forensic psychology in court. So forensic psychology engage in research to inform practices and policies within the criminal justice system, contributing to better understanding of criminal behavior, rehabilitation strategies, and effective intervention. So here, intervention is really much important, because if somebody is not ready enough to attend the sessions with mental health practitioner, how will you rehabilitate those people? So we also need to focus on the basic nature of what the case and what sort of personality those people are, in order to understand and keep them engaged in the sessions. So effective intervention is important rather than just focusing on punishment and prison and death penalty, because as a forensic psychologist, that's your core job, to understand why why this is happening, why some people are like that, why somebody can stab someone 30 times in the chest and just kill them. That's why we are here, to find the answers. So in UK, forensic psychology is more focused on, as I said, research and development instead of BOS, SDS, lie detection tests, because they don't find it reliable. It is still controversial and not used in many countries, as it is not 100% true. So it also depends on the government of the countries. USA might use it, India might use it, but UK more rely on psychological research based expert opinions rather than instruments. So these are the, I've already mentioned this organization, professional organization. Like in India, they have RCI for clinical psychologist, and in Indonesia, there will be some governing body to regulate this professional license. But in here, they have proper divided division for forensic psychology as well, and you can also be a part of two organizations, which is this BPS and the HCPC, healthcare professionals. So now, after being a forensic psychologist, what qualities, what ethics, what principles you need to adhere or obey? Because being a forensic psychologist is a really responsible job, as you are giving expert opinion, and you have to reconsider your own writings before submitting your report to the court, because the other party, other defendant lawyers might question your writings and your claims and your points. So you have to adhere the proper code of ethics and conducts, where it is based on like four ethical principles. So first is respect, which is very much basic globally and in every profession. But since we are dealing with people who are labeled as criminals or labeled as offenders, so first of all, we should not label them before they are convicted and while they are in custody. And even if they are convicted, we as a forensic psychologist respect those people, and they have right to change themselves and reintegrate to the society. Another thing is competence. That's some very most important for forensic psychologists. If you are not competent enough, if you are not trained enough, if you are not skilled enough to assess someone or take interview or writing notes during the interview, then you might not be a successful forensic psychologist, because you are not competent enough to do your job. So it refers to the ability to provide those specific experiences and services to requisite professional standards, which is set by BPS and HCPC. Another two things are responsibility and integrity. So responsibility, as I mentioned earlier, you are professional. You are giving expert opinion in the court. You are giving your knowledge to the society to better help criminal justice system and avoid any injustice in the society. So you, as a member of the BPS society, you might often enjoy professional autonomy, that now we are professional, now you can use your knowledge to give your own opinions, but we need to remember every time that opinions might be biased, opinions might be partial, so you have to analyze every case and every information of the person objectively and unbiasedly, so you can give your objective opinion on the problem or the issue, which is scientific and evidence based. So it is a big responsibility, and members must accept the appropriate accountability for what is within their power or control of management. And the last, fourth principle is integrity. Acting with integrity includes being honest, truthful, accurate, and consistent in one's action, words, decisions, methods, and outcomes. So if you don't have integrity, you are probably biased or you are favoring someone for the some monetary sake, or you might be writing the wrong things in the reports just because you are not honest enough to maintain the professionalism in the report. No matter however bitter or harsh the reality is, you need to report what is the truth you have seen in the case. So integrity is the most important factor when it's come to professionalism and when it comes to forensic psychologists in UK. So now, first part is over, and now I will discuss about pros and cons of degree in forensic psychology in UK compared to India, since I can see the difference because I am doing the another degree, so I feel like I can differentiate the two countries and the two degrees of the different countries, though it's in the same subject. So pros for UK is it's a 1 year course, and usually in India, USA, and other Asian countries, it is a 2 year post graduation master's in forensic psychology. But in UK, it's a 1 year, but it's a full time, and you have to really work hard to go through the whole degree because they require higher level of academic and scientific writings in your assignments and in your reports. It has to be referenced by psychological literature and the evidence-based claims and points which you make, the arguments you make in your academic writing and your assignments has to be linked to the point which you are claiming in your report. So everything should be connected in your report. It can't be like you can just write up about some psychological research and link it to your case. If it's not relevant to your case, then that report is of no worth because it doesn't make any sense to the case which you are referring to. So it needs to be clear. And the course here in UK is more comprehensive and research based, where students are taught how to write reports. As in UK, everything is mostly about your opinion and your reports, what you write as a forensic psychologist, and how you assess the case. So, write reports such as court reports, where you might assess the witness statement which police have taken from the witness. So you might have given a case where there are 4 to 5 witnesses, where you gonna watch the interview of the witness and the policeman, and you will get the transcript of the interview, and based on those things you might give your professional opinion that which of the witness is more reliable and which of the witness is not reliable. because in USA, before the DNA testing was invented, many of the people are convicted based on the false witness testimony, and they have sent to prison. Even if they were innocent, they have sent to prison on the basis of witness statement, which is injustice and unfair for the people because they were the innocent. Later, they found it by DNA testing that they were innocent. So it's important to determine the reliability of witness statement, that whether should we consider the statement of this witness. Was he terrified? Was his all the attention at the weapon, at the knife, at the gun? Because if somebody is afraid of guns, they might have just looked at the guns whole time of the crime, and they don't know how the suspect look like, what has exactly happened. They might alter the chain of events. So it's a problem while memory encoding. If you're scared, if you're terrified, you cannot encode whatever you are witnessing properly, clearly, and accurately. So you have to determine the reliability of the witness statement as a part of court report. When we talk about consultancy reports, generally in community settings and mental health organizations and the prison, they are trying to deal with severe offenders, sex offenders, murderers, thieves. Every sort of criminals in the prison are treated by mental health professional or practitioner or forensic psychologist to understand more in depth about the person, how we can work on this person to reintegrate and change him, improve him, change him better, give him a better life. So those are the consultancy report where we talk about risk factors, where we talk about protective factors, where we talk about why certain kind of issues is happening in the organization. For example, the staff is not happy with how the clients of community setting are treating them. So if people are being rude, people are being aggressive. For example, someone with BPD, borderline personality disorder, they have mood regulation problems, they are aggressive, sometimes they have instrumental aggression, they shout, they throw things here and there when they are triggered by something. So all these things you're gonna face as a forensic psychologist, and how you gonna cope with it, how you gonna be resilient enough to not take things personally. So for example, if some organization is facing staff turnover, some organization facing staff sickness, so you will be consulted by those organization as an expert forensic psychologist, and you have to write a report on what do you think, why these things are happening, why people are not attending the sessions, why staff is not consistent enough, why staff is not happy, why staff is not leaving, how would you address these kind of problems, and how would you provide some solutions to it as a forensic psychologist. Those kind of the task you will be given in UK if you be a forensic psychologist in UK. So the course also involves qualitative and quantitative research methods, which is more, I find it more interesting here than other countries because here they also taught you software as well. We have practical classes for SPSS, we have practical classes for Jamovi. Jamovi is another data analysis software for your research, and it involves like if you're interested in qualitative research, You wanna explore some concepts, psychological concepts like aggression or any concepts which is not objectifiable. You cannot see aggression. It's some concept and construct. So how will you measure it? How will you find the origins of aggression? So we have to understand the in-depth understanding of theoretical and epistemological viewpoints. Here we refer to epistemological means the theory of knowledge. What is the origins of the knowledge? What is the origins of the concept of aggression? What is the origins of concept of personality? Who invented these terms of personality, aggression, anxiety, depression? Because these things are not visible. These things are very subjective in nature, and some it has some patterns which you can't see. But if you observe behavior, if you observe thoughts, if you observe how people behave in certain kind of situation in a certain way, you might get a clear understanding of construct and the theoretical framework of the psychological concepts. So these are also taught in the UK degree as well from the basics. What is research? What is qualitative research? What is quantitative research? How you can differentiate? What are the different methods? How you can do data analysis? They literally prepare for everything. So yeah, and also here you have to get ethical approval in your university as a part of dissertation, so that prepares you for the PhD. These we don't have in India. You just propose, make a presentation for the dissertation, and that's it. You can start the data collection. But here you have to get ethical approval from your supervisor in your university. Cons, those who are interested in instruments, then UK is not for you. UK is expensive course fees, international student as a if you are planning, harsh living costs, high living costs, harsh weather, it's cold, rainy and windy here. That might be a challenge, and it requires experience of UK to get a job in psychology, and you need to be high in English proficiency. Other cons are cultural shock and sense of poor belongingness to the country as you are new in the country, language barriers, cultural differences, social connection in new country, visa challenges, part-time work restrictions, student strict visa regulations, limited job opportunities, poor medical healthcare system. Those can be a challenges to be in UK if you are planning a degree. And as my personal experience, just choose your environment wisely and right. Be with the peaceful people who are not blindly goal oriented, because being a blindly goal oriented makes you self serving and manipulative behavior while living in shared accommodation. As a student, you might found the student accommodation unaffordable, which is provided by university, because those accommodations are designed for British people, English people, not for the international people. Staff of university is really supportive here. Students are provided with personal tutors. They would help you in everything if you find any challenges in personal life, academic life, mental well-being. They have every services you need. Now, if you talk about how you will survive in UK, finding a part-time job is not easy, but it takes around 1 to 3 months to find a part-time job. But you can build up CV, and some experience of any previous job would be helpful. And even if you have psychology background, you can work as a volunteer in mental health organization in UK, which gets you the experience of your studies. Public commutes are bus, trams, and trains, which is expensive, but I personally prefer riding bike to keep myself fit and use the transportation and cut the cost on invest on oneself. So now the question is minimum wage and part-time work enough to sustain and survive oneself. Yes, if you get 20-hour shift, you can get everything smooth. Is the postgraduate degree in UK worth? Yes, because the salary packages of registered forensic psychologists in UK ranges from 30k to 90k GBP, which is pounds per annum, depending on your qualification, role, and experience. Now, tips for postgraduate degree in UK. Focus on qualitative and reliable social connections rather than finding more number of friends in big social circles. Try to find happiness in small daily routine activities like cooking, cycling, physical activities such as football, calisthenics, spas. Never give up on yourself and your goals. Invest time, money, efforts to improve oneself. Keep strong mentality, build mental resilience and analytical problem-solving skills to cope with day-to-day challenges. As you are the only one who can help yourself in a different country. Nobody else gonna save you. You are the only one for yourself. Stay in touch with your family, siblings, cousins, school friends, and previous university friends. In the end, that's it. That's what all is. Thank you for paying attention, investing time and money for this. I hope this might be helpful to get clear idea of how forensic psychology in UK is. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rahul. This has been so educative and supportive for most of us, for those who really want to join the forensic psychology field, and those who are interested in having their masters in the UK in forensic psychology. Back to our participants. Anyone with a question for Mr. Rahul, you can come up with your questions. Is there anyone with a question in the group? You need more insight. You need to know more about the course, life in UK. Your questions are all welcome, please.
I think nobody has any questions.
Seems no one has a question. Everyone is contented with what you have given us. Thank you very much once
Thank you.
again. Okay. Second, we shall have our second guest speaker. That is Miss Prashansa. What a beautiful name. Miss Prashansa. She's currently staying in India, and she's in the working field. She's an expert in EEG. I was once her sample. Anyway, she's a dedicated and motivated researcher in forensic psychology with expertise in EEG systems and neuropsychological analysis. She holds a master's degree in forensic psychology in National Forensic Science University that is located in Gadinaga, and she has 2-year experience of work in brain research and forensic lab. She has conducted a significant research, presenting her work at major conferences like the Sciences. Her technical skills span in EEG, like earlier on mentioned, and ERP analysis, neurofeedback, and working with advanced lie detection systems, including polygraph and brain electro oscillation signature. That is the BIOS instrument. So we take this time to welcome you, Ms. Prashansa, to give us your presentation. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for that beautiful introduction. Yeah, so actually, I'm really interested in research. and I do have experience in EEG. My current research is about detecting deception and understanding what happens in the brain when the participants or the subjects decide to lie. So that is what I am trying to understand. And I will be sharing my screen for you guys. You just let me know if you are able to see my screen.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay. Okay. So I will be talking about how forensic psychology is practiced in India. I think Rahul gave an overview of how forensic psychology is taught in India. I will be talking more about how it is practiced and how we use different kind of tools and techniques to solve the case and other things. So I will be starting with a case. So, in the year of 2007 and 8, a man was killed due to poisoning. The toxicology report mentioned that it was arsenic poisoning, right? And who is the suspect for this particular case? His ex girlfriend and her boyfriend. Now, why is this case so noteworthy? Why am I telling you about this case, this one particular case that happened in 2007 and 8? The reason is because this is one of the case where the court accepted the psychological reports of two tests, two tools that are commonly used by the forensic science labs in India. These tests are polygraph and BIOS, about which I will be talking in the next few slides. And let us just get into some of the details about this particular crime. Okay. I think somebody is using this. Okay, so the case, I'll just quickly go through the case highlights. So we have two people who are the suspects, and there is one victim who is called Udit, and Aditi is the one who is the suspect. She was the ex-girlfriend. Now, Aditi and Udit, they met in an engineering college and they fell in love. They decided to get married after they completed their post graduation, and they told their family about each other, and their family also agreed. So they were quite happy and they were looking forward to it. And they thought they will complete their masters and then they will go and get married. So they shifted to Pune, where they will be doing their masters. And there, Aditi met one other guy called Praveen. He was in their same crisis management team. And as Aditi spent time with Praveen, she fell in love with him and broke up with Udit. So, being obviously heartbroken, Udit kept contacting Aditi and trying to get closure and trying to like harass them and trying to talk to them, both of them. And if you read the case details, which are publicly available, you will get to see that one of the defense lawyers who was defending Aditi, they said that it could be also the case of suicide, as Udit was clearly quite heartbroken and could not deal with the breakup because they had already told the family about it. But the lawyer who was defending Udit, the victim, they suggested something completely different. They said that Aditi and Praveen, they were quite fed up with Udit's interference in their life, and Aditi and Praveen, they got married, and then they planned to kill Udit because he was constantly harassing them, trying to get in touch with them, and thus they served him arsenic laced food offering, which we call in India prasad. So this is something that if somebody offers to you, you are not supposed to refuse it. So I guess he also accepted it, but he did not know that the food offering was laced with arsenic poisoning, which led to his death. Now, there were two tools that were used for this particular case. This case was transferred to Forensic Science Lab, Mumbai, and there were two tests that were conducted. First was the polygraph test, which is also called the lie detector test. And the other is the brain electrical oscillation signature profiling test. Now, both these tests were conducted on Aditi, but only polygraph test was conducted on Praveen. I will get to that later, like why was this so? But just to give you an information that polygraph, what it does is it measures the electrophysiological responses on relevant and comparison questions, whereas BIOS is an EEG-based tool that detects experiential knowledge. Now, talking about polygraph, as I mentioned, is commonly called the lie detector test. It is a forensic psychological test that is used to detect the physiological responses that arise when a person is lying. So, truth and lie, they elicit different responses, right? The default mode of any person is the tendency to speak the truth because it is an effortless answer, right? But the truth may have some consequences. So let's say if you are running late and somebody calls you and asks you, where are you? You might want to say the truth, but you know that if you speak the truth, it might hurt the other person's feelings. So your truth has some consequences. So you would suppress that tendency and the tendency to speak the truth, the correct answer, and you would lie. But this lying creates a conflict. Now, this conflict leads to stress or fear that in turn leads to different physiological changes which are measured using polygraph. These physiological changes are caused due to the autonomic nervous system, and the source of these physiological changes is actually the brain. Now, there are different sensors that are used in polygraph. There are different physiological measures that are measured, and for that we use different sensors. First is the respiration sensor. There are two kinds of respiration sensors that are used. First is the abdominal, then we have thoracic. So they measure the changes in the respiration, the extraction and the expansion and the contraction of the muscles. They actually form a wave. I will show you the chart later on in this presentation itself. So they form a wave, and that is what we measure. And we compare the waves that we see in the respiration sensor between two kind of questioning techniques, two kind of questions, which is relevant question and the comparison question. Relevant question is something that is very much related to the crime that has happened, and comparison questions could be a very generic statement. Then we have blood pressure sensor, which measures the blood pressure, and it actually measures the changes in the voltage, which is caused by the rise and fall of the arterial pressure. I think almost all of you will be aware about the blood pressure. Next, we have electrodermal activity, which actually measures the skin conductivity or the sweat conductivity. It is also called as galvanic skin response. And if your fingertips are quite porous and you sweat a lot, then we get quite maximum signal strength. And the hydrated fingertips conduct electrical activity more, which is better than the dry ones. Then we have something called P gauge, which is used as a countermeasure. It is actually a seat sensor. So if somebody wants to deceive the polygraph, they would quite move during the relevant questioning technique. So this P gauge is used to measure those physical movements so that nobody can actually try to deceive the polygraph, deceive the tool that is being used. So here is the chart that you actually see during the polygraph. These are the two kind of respiration sensors here, and this is the waveforms that you see when the person is breathing. So one is abdominal, one is thoracic, and these are the two sensors. This tube part comes actually in the anterior side of the person, and these beaded structures go behind the person to hold it in place. And this is the waveform. Next, we have EDA. This actually goes to your non-dominant hand. So let's say if your dominant hand is the right hand, so these EDA sensors will go on the alternate fingers of your non-dominant hand. And this green line, as you can see, depicts the EDA waveform. Next up, we have blood pressure cuff. This is not a very clear image, but this red thing is what you see as BP. And this is the blood pressure cuff. We try to maintain it between 50 and 70, somewhere between that, so that it puts enough pressure to get us a wave. And if there are any changes, we are able to record it. Then we have piezoelectric sensor or P gauge. This is what it looks like. It is a seat sensor, so it will be placed on the seat, and on top of it, the person has to sit. And this is usually it should be a straight line. If it's not, and if you see any movement, it means the person is trying to move and they are making movements. So you kind of, if you want to stop the test and ask the person, you cannot be making these movements. You need to stay calm, sit down, and you need to relax. And as you can see, there are certain responses that are here, which is like no, no. So these are the times where the investigating officer, the scientific officer, has asked the questions, and this no is what the participant or the suspect has responded with. And between two questions, you give at least 20 seconds of time between two questions. So this is how the polygraph actually looks like. And this test was conducted on both Aditi and Praveen, who were suspected of Udit's murder. Next up, we have BIOS, the second test that was conducted only on Aditi. This test was developed in 2003 by Dr. C.R. Mukundan, and it actually studies whether or not the person has experiential knowledge. So it has been used in more than 600 cases since its inception, and I think a lot of labs in India do have BIOS, and they are actively using it in a lot of cases. So what it does is it only measures the experiential knowledge. So experiential knowledge is acquired only when you participate in any activity or any event that leads the person to have an experience of that event. So let's say if I ask you, what did you do on the the second Saturday of the last month? Would you be able to answer me? Anybody?
Repeat your question, please.
Yeah, so if I were to ask you, what did you do on the second Saturday of last month or the month before?
You have to recall, you have to think about it.
Yeah, exactly. But what if I ask you, what did you do on your last birthday?
Then it might be memorable because it's a birthday, special event.
Yeah, it's a special event and it has a lot of emotional attachment to you. So if I ask you about your birthday, you will be able to tell me who all came, who all wished you, what were you wearing, and other things like that, that you definitely remember. But when I'm asking you something about the last month or something that happened in the recent past, it becomes difficult for you to actually remember what you did. So the idea is that some memories, they are extremely important to us, they are very relevant to us, and they are very emotionally charged. So those are stored in our brain, and we have experienced that. So that is something that we call as experiential knowledge. Now this is quite different from conceptual knowledge. So let's say somebody visits India, right, and they go to see the Taj Mahal. Now they go back to their place and they explain it to their friends and family members how the Taj Mahal looks like. Their friends and family members will definitely get the conceptual knowledge of how a Taj Mahal looks like, but they will not have the experience of actually seeing it. They will not have the experience of the weather of India, how the people were, how crowded it was, what were the other things that were being sold during that time. So they will not have the experience of all that. They will have the conceptual knowledge because they were told about it. So you see the difference between conceptual knowledge and experiential knowledge. So BIOS is programmed in such a way that it detects and differentiates between the electrical activation of conceptual knowledge and experiential knowledge. So the thing is that a crime is emotionally charged for the criminal or the suspect, and it's very relevant, and they have the experiential knowledge of they have the experience of committing that particular crime. So, based on the information of the case that is collected from the investigating officers and other documents, the scientific officer prepares a number of probes, which are nothing but short sentences and phrases. So, some examples of probes in the case of Aditi and Udit that we are discussing right now would be I called Udit in his cell phone. I wanted him to stop talking to me. I fell in love with Praveen, and I wanted to kill Udit, something like that. So it's always in the first person. And as you see in this image, in the BIOS test, the person is just sitting in a comfortable chair with an EEG cap placed on his head, and they just have to listen to these statements that I just said with their eyes closed. As in polygraph, you saw that the person has to respond with either a yes or a no. But in BIOS, they don't have to do any such thing. They just have to sit in a chair comfortably, closing their eyes and listening to the statements. Now, if they don't pay attention to the statements, the tool is designed in such a way that it will stop playing probes. So you will also know that the person is actually not paying attention. You can stop the test. You can ask the person to not do any mental activity and just listen to the probes that are being presented, which are the short sentences or phrases that are being presented to the suspect. And these probes, they are actually arranged in a sequential order, like a story-like structure, to depict different kind of scenarios, and then they are presented to the suspect. Now, coming back to the case, what were the findings of the polygraph and BIOS with respect to the cases? So, from polygraph, it was found that Aditi showed deception on all the relevant questions. So she was her responses on all the relevant questions were analyzed, and it came out to be deceptive. While Praveen's responses were inconclusive, they really could not figure out whether he's lying or telling the truth. This is one of the maybe like limitation of the polygraph, that it is not very accurate. But Aditi showed deception for all the relevant questions, which is why she was subjected to a BIOS recording. And in that BIOS recording, she showed experiential knowledge for all the target probes as well that were presented to her, and it indicated her involvement in the murder of the said person, of the victim, Udit Bharti. So she showed experiential knowledge for having to plan a murder, plan the murder of Udit by giving him the arsenic poisoning. She showed experiential knowledge for having gone to a temple, collected prasad, buying arsenic from a shop, and keeping that said prasad or food offering aside for Udit that was laced with arsenic poisoning. Then she also showed experiential knowledge for having called Udit up and give him the prasad or the food offering that was mixed with poison. Apart from that, she also showed experiential knowledge for the emotional experiences of getting relieved and scared in relation to the in relation to giving the food to Udit. So she felt scared while she was giving the food, and she was scared that he would die. But she also felt relieved when the Udit Bharti, the victim, was dead. So those emotions that she felt were presented to her as target probes, and she showed experiential knowledge, which means that she has experienced those things in relation to this case. So this led to her conviction, and she was put behind bars and the court had accepted these two results from these two from the polygraph and the BIOS in the case. So this is, which is why it's very important. It was very important case at that time, and this was the first case that had done so, included these evidences as corroborative evidences, and uh, convicted the suspect based on that. Now, apart from these two tools, there are also other tools that are used in forensic science labs. So we have something called suspect detection system. So suspect detection system is nothing but just, it only has one sensor. So we talked about galvanic skin response or electrodermal activity in the polygraph, and this is what is used for this particular system. So as you can see here, this is where the participant's hand go. Again, the non-dominant hand, he has to place the complete hand here. Then there are headphones from which the participant, the subject hears the questions, and they have to answer yes or no. There is also a camera mounted on top so that we can see whether the subject is the suspect is paying attention or not. And this is actually used in forensic science labs to screen if we have quite a few suspects. Like if you have a lot of suspects in a particular case, you can screen those suspects using SDS, and you can actually come you can think, and you can like screen all those participants, all those suspects, and come up with only a few important ones, and you can investigate those suspects as well. It is only based on one sensor. Next, we have layered voice analysis. This was developed in 1997 by Amir Lieberman, and this is also quite extensively used in forensic science labs. It is Nemesisco's core technology. So the idea behind layered voice analysis is that our voice has very subtle properties that could hint us and about the cognitive processes and the emotional reactions, the stress levels, etc. So if you were to subject me currently for the layered voice analysis, you probably find that I am high on stress level because I'm presenting this and I'm quite stressed. But if you present this for a suspect and you ask them questions, so this is particularly for open-ended questions, as you saw in polygraph, that the person, and SDS, that the person is only supposed to be answering in yes or no. And in BIOS, they are not supposed to answer at all. They just have to listen. But in layered voice analysis, you have to provide a detailed account of the question that, or the crime that, let's say, you are suspected of, or you are not actually a suspect and you just are there to prove your innocence. So the scientific officer will ask you, where were you during that time? Okay, tell me what happened. So the suspect is supposed to give a detailed account, a detailed response. It's not just a one word answer. They have to provide it in detail so that their voice can be analyzed, the properties of the voice can be analyzed, and then it gives us like it measures the emotional reactions and the stress level, and based on that, the scientific officer understands which particular area is noteworthy or worth exploring more. So they ask even more questions if the suspect shows stress level on um, certain event. So if we were to ask Aditi, what happened when you called Udit, or did you ask him to meet you? And she would start saying that no, I did not ask him to meet me. I have no clue. And it showed some stress level or some emotional reaction. Then the scientific officer will definitely push into the question more and ask her even more about it, because there are more stress levels that are indicated through her voice when that particular question was asked. So this is something that we use in forensic science labs as well. to screen different suspects and to investigate as well. Apart from that, we definitely have other tools that are not commonly used but have a lot of scope. These are eye detect system and thermal imaging. So eye detect system is heavily researched. It is quite accurate and it provides a quick assessment, and it can be used in pre-employment screening. A lot of places do use it in pre-employment screening. So here you can see that this is the screen that the subject sees, and this is the chin rest. It is usually to keep the suspect's face quite like not moving. And here we have the camera which studies, actually they have this eye detect system here as well, which studies different pupillometry observations. They study the fixation, they study the pupil diameter when a particular question is presented to you. And a lot of research has shown that there is less fixation or more fixation and more dilating of the pupil when you see something that is relevant to you. So it's quite heavily researched and quite heavily used in pre-employment screening as well. Then we have thermal imaging. As you can see from this image, that thermal imaging is used to understand how you're feeling in when you're feeling different kind of emotions, how it looks like, and it could be useful in airport security, border checkposts, etc. So all these tools are just used by the scientific officers in forensic science labs to understand whether the suspect is telling the truth or not, because there is no objective way to actually understand. The participant could be lying, and if you are trained in, let's say, understanding the behavioral cues or understanding what happens when a person lies, then you can understand when the person is lying without the use of any tool. But human beings are complex. I could be lying right now, I could be saying something to you, and I could be lying and you'll not be able to understand it. Or you don't know me well enough, or I could be just like, I don't know, could be lying very nicely in front of all of you and you will not know. So it's quite complex. Either you will have to be trained heavily, like you will have to research and you will have to be trained in all those things, and then you can understand whether I am lying or not. And then there is other option of using these tools which can give you some objectivity. So these tools, they provide scientific and data driven insights, and they reduce the reliance on subjective interpretations. So if a lot of people are working in the same lab, they might have different interpretations for a subject or a suspect based on their own experiences. So it could be quite subjective. But when you use a tool, it's not subjective. It's no more subjective. It's quite objective, and it has scientific and data driven insights. So when you use BIOS, there is no manual scoring as such. The tool itself analyzes all the activities, all the brain activities, and it tells you whether the person has experience of that certain event or not. And then when you use polygraph, you see the physiological responses when you're asking the person some relevant question or some comparison question. So it's quite scientific, data driven, and objective. What the person is feeling, what the person is thinking is out there. You cannot change it. So it's quite objective that way. And tools also provide comprehensive and efficient investigations. You can use these tools in different settings, as I mentioned, in pre-employment screening. You can use these tools in airport security, border checkposts, courtroom assessments, and a lot of other fields as well. And these tools could make your investigations faster and more effective. So these interrogation techniques, interviewing techniques take a lot of time. They require I think they require 8 hours or something like that. That's what I saw in some TV series, as I have no personal experience of that. Or we don't use interviewing techniques here, so I don't know how true that is. But we do use tools here, and I can say for sure that it only takes like 1 hour or 2 hours maximum. Bios might take a lot, because you are presenting the whole case to the suspect itself. So but that also takes maximum 2 hours, so you can just finish one suspect or two suspects, three suspects in a day, and just understand whether the person has the experience, is lying or not lying. So it is quite efficient that way. So there are other tools as well that I did not mention. We have narco analysis as well, but that is very shaky in terms of, on the grounds of ethics, because you are injecting something inside the person, and it violates human rights, which is why I did not mention it, and it is not practiced as much. But these tools are something that are practiced quite in our forensic science labs. So, which is why I've mentioned all these tools. And these are the references that I used. And I would also like to point out that the case that I presented here is publicly available, and it has all the court proceedings, all the stuff, the legal stuff as well. So if you are interested in that, maybe you can go and read. This third one is the link for that. It's a PDF. It's called BIOS ruling. You can go and read. It's quite an interesting case. So you will have fun reading it. And I am up for any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Prashansa.
Thank you.
And I love the comparison between India and UK, and how forensic psychology is quite practiced in the two different countries. So anyone with questions, please come up with the questions. Let us feed our presenters with questions. Feel free to come up with any question, please. We have 5 minutes. We can take on any question. Feel free.
Maybe I will start first. Last question, because mostly here from my country. So I'm going to open with Indonesian, and then so some of you can listen also with Indonesian language. Yeah. So yeah, I understood also all of us who join this webinar, we are here able to speak in English, but ya, jika ada yang memiliki pertanyaan, boleh ditulis di kolom chat atau boleh raise hand, nanti kita akan unmute. Yeah, why I invite our speaker here from different country, actually, even though, as I know nationality, both of you are from India. So I do have a question like this. If we talk about forensic psychologists, especially in my country, in Indonesia, as what I'm hearing before, I got from Mr. Rahul said that mostly in UK, they use psychological assessment, not using psychological like tools as like what Ms. Prashansa said. She introduced about BIOS, polygraph, SDS, and other tools. But when we come in a case like that, in my country, mostly there is a case, we bring like religious thing to the court. What do you think about that? Such as like, we do have like, because majority from our country are Muslim, okay? So when we talk about that, there is like some religious, we bring it, and then even though they say that it's a culture, but the things we believe, and then after we believe it, even the court, I believe from my perspective also, they also trust in it. in that case like that. So what do you think in different, like Mr. Rahul came study to UK to learn about forensic psychology, and I'm also wants to know about what is the perspective from Miss Prashansa about that. Thank you.
So what
Yes,
do you mean?
Miss Prashansa.
Yeah, go on, Prashansa.
It's okay, you can go ahead as well. So I was just wanting to know from Ruth that when you say the cultural perspective or the religion thing, what do you actually mean by that?
So yeah, we do have like this. The culture thing, what I mean is, so I'm not like really understand. I don't know, not understand, but I don't know how to translate it into English. But we do we call it sumpah pocong, yeah. So you bring this person to doing something like in religious thing, like praying, and then you you follow what your parents saying like that. So you are not doing you are not committed to the crime. You are like, you are far from that crime. You don't know anything about the crime like that. So if something happened in the future, like maybe you are going to die because of what you are saying. So it means that now I know nothing about the crime. I'm free from the crime, but why you take me to the jail like that?
Oh.
Yeah.
So if I'm understanding it correctly, it's like more emphasis is placed on understanding it from a cultural and a religious idea than actually understanding how the person committed the crime or why have they committed the crime or are they lying about the crime.
Yes,
Is
that
it?
is why. But the thing is, the court also trust in it. So like that.
Oh,
Yeah. So, and it means that assessment in psychological you put aside. And especially we are not trust into polygraph. And as my understood, those people who is doing polygraph, they are not from the psychologist. I'm not like really great, but pardon me if I'm not if I'm doing mistaken to mention the things, but I'm sure they are not from psychologists. Yeah, they're just doing like take a training, and they both maybe the tools, they bought the tools polygraph, and they practice it in Indonesia. Yes.
yeah, so one important thing here is that it's actually important to have psychologists administer these psychological tools, because when you are administering it, you are also able to understand the psyche of the suspect, whether the suspect is sane, or I don't really want to say insane, but whether they are suffering from any mental health issue which has made them commit the crime. So you might have seen a lot of cases from, I think, mostly US, where they talk about how people are suffering from certain mental health issue, which is why they committed said crime. A lot of issues, a lot of cases do revolve around people suffering with schizophrenia and committing the crime, people suffering from antisocial personality disorder and suffering the crime, like committing the crime. So it's really important to understand whether the person has certain mental health issue which led to them committing the crime, which is also something that a psychologist will be able to figure out and do assessments and then figure out. So it's really important to have a psychologist doing these forensic psychological tests, even in polygraph, when they are interviewing. Before you administer the polygraph, you are supposed to interview the suspect and ask them questions, and then come up with your own questions to ask during the polygraph, from which you will get maximum electrophysiological responses. So it's quite important that you actually have psychologists and understand from a very scientific way rather than understanding it from a religious way. Maybe it will take some time, but you can present a lot of other studies that have been done on this particular area. Yeah, and I think Rahul will be able to give his
Yeah,
own
Mr. Rahul
experience
had
and
something to
perspective.
say.
I would like to say that for religious and cultural practices, we need to make awareness of these things in the country, particularly, and then also let them know, the government people who are sitting in parliaments and government offices who are deciding on laws and policies and regulations, they should know that this is how things are happening in other countries, and this is how we can adapt a scientific way to establish a point, and we can see the cases in subjective way rather than just you know just relied on culture or religion, because then you are applying the same solution of religion and culture to the all the population of the country, but in reality those are individuals, so you need to see them as individuals and just analyze the whole case objectively. That's what I need to say, because right now, as Ruth mentioned, that the court and government does not believe in these kind of tests, like Prashansa mentioned, and they don't even use the reports which I have mentioned, which is UK practice, different reports based on psychological literatures. So to make them aware, we need to do more and more webinars and awareness program in Indonesia specifically, to the roots in local language, most importantly, because some people might not understand these things in webinar in English. So organizing these things and making awareness in local language in that particular country might help us, you know, to get change the policies and regulation and laws in the particular country, and then government and court might consider these things, that these things are actually useful and you can use it to get the more efficient and effective way of justice. That's all I need to say.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rahul. There is a question on a group chat to participant number 2. Is there any law or some legislation that empowers forensic psychology practitioners on the use of the tools, given that the forensic psychology tools, however, cross the boundaries of human rights?
Yeah, okay. So thank you for the question. I just want to point out that it was only one technique, which is called the narco analysis, which crosses the boundaries of human rights, which violates it, and it is not used as frequently. But I can say for sure that the brain electrical oscillation signature profiling tool, BIOS, does not cross any or violates any human rights. The suspect is not expected to say anything against themselves. They just have to listen to certain probes which are presented to them in first person. They don't have to respond, so it does not really violate any human right. And as for other things, we do have consent. We do take consent from in front of the court or the magistrate, and the person, if the person does not consent to um, sit for the said test, like let's say the polygraph or BIOS, the test is not conducted on them. They have every right to say no to the certain test, and if they do say yes, then only we are conducting these tests. And at any point of time they can actually refuse to sit for the test, so we do make sure that consent is taken properly and the participant, I mean the suspect, sits for the test voluntarily. So it's not really a question with respect to the tools that we are using currently. We are taking care of all the human rights.
Yeah,
And
there is also a second question. How much available are these forensic psychology tools on the market? Suppose I want to buy them and bring them to Zimbabwe.
so,
So, yeah, Rahul, go on.
yeah, I mean, it is sold by some company called Limestone and Lafayette from Israel, and no personal or individual can buy these instruments as it is used by government and it is limited to the government of the country. So it's not for commercial use, it's not for personal use, so you cannot really buy it anywhere. But if you have connections, political connections, governmental connections, and international connections with those company and those country, then you might be collab with government and officials to bring those instruments in your particular country.
Yeah, I would also like to add on to this that as Rahul mentioned about polygraph, the companies that he mentioned, they do sell polygraph, and the company that sells BIOS is called Axonet. You can reach out to them, and as he rightfully mentioned, that it is mostly sold to the government organizations, and the polygraph actually can be also sold if you are looking for pre-employment screening. It's also, I think, sold to the military as well, and other organizations that require and like depend on the employees being quite, truthful. They use these polygraph tools for pre-employment screening. They also use iDetect. iDetect is sold by Converse, so you can reach out to them as well for your organization, and you can reach out to the said companies and ask them about their pricing and how the setup is going to be, and the training and all these other related stuff.
Yeah, thank you so much, our presenters. This has been so insightful, very, very educative to us. In summary, in brief, we have got an insight about forensic psychology and summarizing it as implementation of psychology in investigations, if I'm not wrong. And we were so delightful that we have been able to get presenters that are from two different backgrounds, though from one ethnicity, but at least we have someone from the UK with his experience and someone from India with her experience to brief us more about the psychology tools and the psychology investigations. The other core factor we have got to learn is that one country practices the use of tools and another one bases more on assessment. However, it brings us back to the aspect of psychology, that psychology is more of assessment, and before also the implementation of the tools, as an assessment on the criminals is first done, then it's like the tools are used as the second basis during investigations. This has been so educative to us, the participants, and we look forward to invite you again, speak to us more about forensic psychology. And your experience has been a grateful base to us. And we look forward to implement what you have educated us, and maybe look further, come to your countries, and we practice and study more about forensic psychology. And don't hesitate to hit us back so that we get to learn more, please. Don't keep your knowledge. Educate us more and more. We want to know more. Don't keep your knowledge. We really want to make use of it. And Mr. Rahul, once you get certified, please educate us more on how the certification of UK works. maybe we can also implement in our countries and know how to do it in our own countries. However, this has been so educative, and we thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to meet you again. And I take this opportunity to also thank the participants for logging in and taking on their time to listen to a field maybe that is even not in their expertise, but at least they want to be inquisitive and learn more about it. Thank you very much. We appreciate. So we take this opportunity to inform the presenters that you receive your certificates, and the rest of the certificates will be received, I think, in the mid of the week or the end of the week. We thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us,
Yes.
inviting us to speak.
Yeah.
It was really, really nice. Thank you, Ruth. Thank you, Prem.
So actually, I want to take a moment to share my screen because we have prepared as a symbolize that we already prepare our certificate for our speakers.
Sure.
Yes. Is it visible?
It
Yeah.
is visible.
Yes. Thank you so much to Mr. Rahul Gautami for your
Yes.
time. Yes, this is a symbol of our gratitude to have you here in our webinar held by Dalami Forensik in the Global, which is actually, as we are still newbie in this organization, in this field, we are trying to improve ourselves. As the president of Dalami Forensik, I also trying to give like awareness to my fellow countrymen with with my mother tongue language, because right now, as I know I'm only one still graduate from forensic psychology. I have one, but he is very famous in my country. His name is Mr. Reza Indragiri. He's very famous, so I cannot reach him, but as long as I'm still able to speak about forensic psychology, I want to work in this field. Another one, I want also to thank you to Miss Prashansa. Give me a minute.
Thank you so much, Ruth.
Okay,
It is
thank you
really
so much, Miss Prashansa Tripathi. Yes, see, you have your time. You give your time to us. We are also
of
expecting
course.
for further next webinar. Please also share your knowledge to Dalami Forensik
Yes,
in my country and every country. Actually, I know we are here from different countries, not only from India, not only from Indonesia, but there is also from Zimbabwe. I see also from Madagascar and from Brazil. We are different countries. I'm so lucky to have everyone, participants, to join us here in our webinar. Thank you, moderator. I will stop my screen right now.
I think we can all, if possible, those who can put their video on so that we check the group photo. And this will be taken by the president. Yeah, she has to take the group photo.
Okay.
So those who can show their faces, please. You can share your faces, then we take the group photo, please.
Ya, boleh di-open kameranya. Ya, saya berharap bisa dibuka kameranya. Terima kasih banyak. Ya, other people from other countries, you can listen from our language, ya. And then you will learn later how to speak Indonesia. Oke, terima kasih banyak. Oke, saya hitung ya. I'm going to use Indonesian. 1, 2, 3, which is means 1, 2, 3. Okay, be ready.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. One more, yeah. Give me a second. Okay, I'm using English right now. No. 1, 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so
Yeah,
much for
thank
having
you.
us. And we are definitely looking forward for more webinars, more presentations with you guys, sharing everything that we know.
Yeah, it was nice webinar.
Thank you so
Okay,
much.
thank you so much, members, for coming up. We
Thank
meet next
you. Bye bye,
every
everyone.
September,
Thank you.
every last Saturday of the month. We always hold a webinar. Please come again and listen to other forensic fields, not only forensic psychology. We also host cyber, finance, and other forensics fields. Thank you very much.
Bye bye,
And have
everyone.
yourself
I
a great
will.
Sunday, all of you. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you so much.
I will end the